Hello, my name is Farish. I'm a California-based developer. And in this video, we're going to talk about what to do when you're stuck. And the first thing I want to assure you is that it's perfectly normal to get stuck. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So exactly what do I mean by getting stuck is perfectly normal? Well, let me tell you about my own personal experience. A few years back, my mentor was complaining. He had this error in his Ruby on Rails application. His program stopped working and he had been stuck for the last few hours. He wasn't sure what to do. So I asked him if I could help him with the program out of curiosity. About 5 minutes into looking at the code, I had an aha moment. I figured out where the error was and I got the application up and running. I was excited. For the first time, I was able to help my mentor out and give back to him. I want to emphasize this. At the time, my skill level was nowhere near my mentor's, and I just happened to see the error that his eyes wouldn't show him. This is what makes us human. Even the best of us, even the most experienced of us, get stuck. The goal of this video is to teach you the critical skill of getting unstuck. The reason being is that there isn't always a magic button, whether as a learner or professional, that will get you the answer that you need. So let's learn some general practices to help you get unstuck. Now that I've explained why getting stuck is perfectly normal, I'm going to go over a list of general practices that you should do to help you get unstuck. Let's start with the first one. Don't panic. Take a deep breath. Treat the error as a learning opportunity. Errors are not something to fear. Every error is a chance to learn and improve your skills. Stay positive. It is easy to get down on yourself when you make an error. Developing good habits and believing in yourself can go a long way in your improvement. Now, the next general practice I like to talk about is read the error. Many times while mentoring at Codecademy, when I have interacted with a learner in regards to an error, they've told me they did not take the time to read the error. If you don't get into the habit of reading an error, how are you going to learn how to solve it? This is a two-part process. You want to read the error and try to understand it. And if you don't understand it, that is okay. Eventually, through repetition, you will gain understanding. I am going to go to a Codecademy exercise, intentionally create an error, and go over this part of the process. So I'm over in Codecademy's platform, and I'm going to do step 1 of this exercise. Let me go ahead and hit run. I've already written some code. We have an error that pops up. Now let's read the error. Reading is not defined. What does this exactly mean? Let's take a moment to understand what's going on. One thing I like to note is that Codecademy's platform usually provides 2 error messages for the majority of the platform's exercises. Let's go over to the bottom of the page and see what error is there. So let's read this. Oops, the test returned an error. Maybe you have a syntax error or a typo. So this is pretty important information here. Let's scroll back up and take a look at the code again and see if we can fix this error. Now, before I look for what caused the error, I'm going to go back and reread the question to make sure I understood it. Declare a variable using const named hobbies. Set it equal to an array with 3 strings inside of it. Now let's go and review the code. You can see I have const hobbies equal to an array, powerlifting, coding, and reading. But reading looks different. Do you notice yet? Well, take another look. And maybe you notice that there are no quotes around reading. Without the quotes, I did not denote reading as a string, so let me go ahead and correct that. And then I'm going to run the program again. Let's see if our error went away. Okay, I'm going to hit run on the bottom, let it process. Let's see what happens. Oh, look at that, a check mark. Great. Now I'm going to discuss 2 other general practices that were done in this section, but I didn't directly mention. Let's start with spelling and syntax. What caused the error earlier was a syntax mistake. I had a string, but I did not denote the string with quotes. Whenever you get an error, you should always double check your spelling and syntax. Other common syntax mistakes include incorrect use of brackets and curly braces and using the wrong number of equal signs. As a general rule, you should always get into the habit of checking your syntax and spelling before you run your code. Even though spelling mistakes are self-explanatory, one thing I want to emphasize is that computers are literal. Maintaining case matters. 2 variables variables with the same name but different casing are treated as two independent variables. So maintain consistency. If you like to capitalize your variables, do it for all of them. But another thing to note, try to follow styling standards for the language that you are programming in. These style guides offer best practices that help reduce your error rate by making your code more readable, making it easier to spot your mistakes as you make them. The next general practice that I will explore was also done in the reading the error section of this video, which is to verbalize the problem. Let's divide this into two parts. First, you want to verbalize what you are trying to solve. This could be a question. It could be a section of code you are working on for a company. It could be a personal project. Make sure you understand what the outcome is supposed to be. This is what leads you to better understanding. Saying it out loud makes you think about what you're trying to accomplish. Then use this to circle back and take a look and reevaluate your code to see if you can find that error now. By verbalizing the problem, you understand what you're trying to accomplish. Make sure your code does that. And in places where it doesn't seem to fit that goal, chances are that's where the error is. Now, with larger projects, another general practice that you will most likely have to do to get unstuck is to break down the program. When first learning to code, we tend to think of the program as one large block instead of a bunch of blocks that make up the program. So with regards to going back to reading the error, see if you understand what block of code might be causing the error. If you aren't sure, then the next thing to do is to try to explain each block of code. Make sure your code fits into that explanation. Sometimes you may need to walk your code backwards, reversing each step to find the error, especially if your code was working properly in the earlier sections. Now for the next general practice, I'm going to explore using Google to get unstuck, whether it be on Codecademy or with regards to off-platform projects. Before I go further, I'd like to mention that at Codecademy, we have existing resources to help you get unstuck. Those resources will be discussed towards the end of the video. In most cases with Codecademy, you can avoid using Google. But like I mentioned earlier, sometimes that magic get help button isn't around, and if you're working off platform, you need an alternative. And learning how to use Google is one of the more important skills in your coding journey. Now let's use Google and see what happens. I'm at this exercise on the Codecademy platform. I'm going to hit save, let the exercise run, and see what error is displayed. The error that pops up is assignment to constant variable. Let me copy this, and then what I'm going to do is paste this into the Google search engine. I'm over at Google and I'm going to paste that error in, and let me hit enter and let's take a look at the results. And the very first result says type error, invalid assignment to const x, JavaScript and DM. Well, this looks interesting. Let's click on it and see what kind of information we can find in here. The first section of this page is called message. And if you look at this section, it's a list of error messages. And if you take a look further and read through them, the second message matches the error that I pasted in Google earlier. There's a good chance that this page will have information to help me with this error. So if we scroll down on this page, there is a what went wrong section. Let's take a look at that and read it together. A constant is a value that cannot be altered by the program during normal execution. It cannot change through reassignment, and it can't be redeclared. In JavaScript, constants are declared using the const keyword. Now let's pause for a moment and talk about how I got to this information quickly. Part of the learning process in getting unstuck is learning how to ask the right question. Here are some basic rules when searching on Google. First, be specific when possible. I copied the error and searched it with Google. Sometimes this doesn't work because the error is too generic and the results don't fit your situation. When this happens, consider rewording your search. You might get better results. But from my personal experience, this is one of the fastest methods. Also, when getting results for a different language, be sure to include the language name in the search. And what I mean by that is some languages have similar concepts. So when you search for an error for JavaScript, you might want to include that language name. Lastly, if you're searching with regards to a Codecademy exercise, include the exercise name. That specificity might get you a targeted answer. Learning how to ask the right question does take some experience. So start by asking questions. Even if they're the wrong questions, keep asking. Eventually, you will start learning from your wrong questions how to ask the right questions. I've discussed a lot of general practices, and at this point, it's time to talk about what Codecademy offers you with regards to resources to help you get unstuck. Starting off with the exercise FAQs. Every Codecademy exercise has a FAQ that is attached to the community. Scrolling down towards the bottom of the page, right after the last of the instructions, you will see the community forums link. Clicking on this link will take you to the discussion board and directly to the FAQ thread for this exercise. Let's have a look. Over here at the FAQ, you see the name of the exercise you're at, and as we scroll down, you're going to see some information, including asking you to either ask a question or answer a question simply by hitting reply below. So use this opportunity when you're stuck to practice the art of asking a question. Make sure to give your formatted code, error messages, and anything else you might feel relevant. Include what you don't understand. It's okay to say, I need help, I'm not sure. As I scroll down, there is already an asking and answering exchange between the learners. Before you ask your question, make sure it hasn't been already answered. Read everything, as there could be additional information and concepts that are given in this exchange of information that might help your overall understanding with regards to this exercise. And as you progress through your coding journey, consider going back and answering questions. As you've been leaning on others from the community to answer your questions, consider letting others lean on you, as that actually helps you to learn better when explaining things to another learner. It's also a good idea to be part of a developer community more than just when you're unstuck. Now, if you have a question that isn't directly related to an exercise, Codecademy is going to ask you to lean on the community by heading over to the forums using the link listed in the video and heading over to the Get Help section. Let me demonstrate that. So I'm over at the Codecademy forums using the link that I listed earlier. And right at the top is the Get Help section. Go ahead and just click on that. Each of these squares represents a programming category at Codecademy. You could click on New Topic to ask your question, but first do a search and see if your question hasn't already been asked or answered. When you're feeling unstuck, take some time to explore the forums. If you feel up to it, see if you can help others get unstuck by answering their questions. Community interaction, helping each other getting unstuck, leads to the improvement of everybody's skill level. The last Codecademy resource that helps you get unstuck is the project walkthrough videos. Let's explore how this works. I'm at this React project, and if I scroll down past the last step, you'll see a project walkthrough video link. It details step by step how to complete the project. Just one thing to note, every project on our platform will soon carry a walkthrough video, and that every exercise on our platform will soon carry a FAQ. If for some reason the project or exercise doesn't have either of these resources, please feel free to lean on our community through the forums to help you get unstuck. Well, we just went through a lot of material. Let's do a recap. To recap, we went over general practices such as reading the error and asking the right question. We used Google to search the error and see what kind of results came up. And lastly, we talked about Codecademy's resources and leaning on the Codecademy's community to get unstuck. One thing I like to emphasize, it's a good idea to become part of a developer community more when you're unstuck. Learners can do so by leaving a comment below or by subscribing to the channel for more videos. Thank you for watching. Happy coding!